Breaking news out of Charlottesville, George Huguely has just been found guilty of second-degree murder. Now, that charge is anywhere from 5 to 40-year sentence. They were going after a first-degree murder charge in George Huguely, but right now the charge is second-degree murder. He has been found guilty. And again, the jury of 7 men and 5 women are going to have about a 30-minute cooling-off period, and then they'll start the sentencing phase. So again, Huguely could get anywhere from 5 to 40 years in this sentence. There's also a couple of other charges, grand larceny, and we're also hearing about the breaking and entering and intent to commit assault. We'll read all those charges for you. Christian Schaefer is getting lined up in front of our live cameras. This murder, again, started May the 3rd of 2010 off the campus of the University of Virginia. Yardley Love, who went to NDP, grew up in Cockeysville. And again, she was a senior lacrosse player at UVA, and she was just months away from the University of Virginia. She was 22 at the time of the murder. George Huguely grew up in Chevy Chase. He attended the Landon School in Bethesda. He, too, a senior at the UVA. He was a lacrosse player there. He was 22 at the time of the murder, and he was represented by Francis Lawrence. And again, the jury was made up of 7 men and 5 women. 2 were dismissed today. And again, they started deliberating just before 9:30 this morning, and they wanted to know video. They wanted to see video again. They wanted to hear about the handwritten note that Huguely evidently sent and was found at the scene. And again, this is just, can you imagine Sharon Love, what she's going through right now, and Lexi, who is, of course, her sister. We want to go live right now to Christian Schaefer, who is live in Charlottesville. Christian, the reaction inside that courtroom when the verdict was read.
Go. You're up. How was the verdict?
Well, it's an unbelievable situation here as the verdict has been read. George Huguely guilty of second-degree murder, not guilty of the more serious charge of first-degree murder nor first-degree felony murder. Gasp in the courtroom as those verdicts were read dispassionately by Judge Edward Hogshire in this case. We're now in a brief recess to determine exactly how to move forward. The next step will be the sentencing phase of this trial, and the attorneys and the judge all agreed that that could begin pretty much immediately right now once they get some technicalities out of the way. So we could even see some of the witnesses called back, some more evidence presented as far as the sentencing for George Huguely in the next couple hours. Once again, he has been convicted of second-degree murder. Here in Virginia, the potential sentence for that conviction is 5 to 40 years in prison. He was also convicted on a second charge, grand larceny, and the sentence for that could be anywhere from 1 year to 20 years in prison. So it'll be up to the jury to determine those ranges. Obviously, when you do the math, you're adding the potential of 20 years to the potential of 40 years. Potentially, George Huguely looking at 60 years in state prison here in Virginia. Now, I want to talk a little bit about second-degree murder. That is what Prosecutor Dave Chapman was arguing for in his closing argument on Saturday, and indeed throughout the trial. First-degree murder, which requires intent, was kind of a remote possibility for the prosecution. They always thought that in their mind, George Huguely did intend to kill Yardley Love and that he should be convicted of first-degree murder. However, it was made quite clear throughout the testimony that Huguely had been drinking nearly all day on the day that the murder happened. And in Virginia, voluntary intoxication is a defense for first-degree murder. And so the prosecution seemed to be well aware that it would be extremely difficult for them to get that conviction on the first-degree murder charge. So what they were focusing on was second-degree murder, and that is indeed what they got here tonight. To win that second-degree murder conviction, what they needed to prove was malice. They need to prove that George Huguely was the one who injured Yardley Love, caused her death. And I can remember in his closing argument, the prosecutor, Dave Chapman, said that the wounds on Yardley Love, some nearly 25, he said, including the large one on her face, those 25 wounds showed malice, according to Dave Chapman, and apparently the jury agreed, convicting George Huguely of second-degree murder here tonight in Charlottesville, and we will soon move into the sentencing phase of the trial, Jamie.
All right, Christian Schaefer on the spot there in Charlottesville, Virginia. Again, the verdict has been handed down, second-degree murder against George Huguely. Again, we're going to chase everybody to our website at abc2news.com as developments come in and the sentencing phase starts. Again, that's abc2news.com. We'll see you tonight at 11 o'clock. But again, George Huguely found guilty of second-degree murder in the murder of Yardley Love.